Hello, I'm Charlene Mosier from Sound Sewing, Silverdale, Washington, and the PFAFF Creative Sewing Center, Lacey, Washington. So this is a how-to class. This is actually going to probably have to be broken into many classes because we're going to do today the creative icon, and right now we're going to work on the sewing part, and there's just so much in this machine that I don't want to make the video too long for you guys. So we will do this in sections so that you can pick the section that best works for you and get you to know your new creative icon. So the creative icon versus the performance icon, you can use this video pretty much for either one of the machines because I'm only doing the sewing part of it. But the creative icon is the machine that has the embroidery module available to it. Whereas a performance icon is literally just about the same machine without the embroidery unit. It has all the same stitch menus, but it does have less stitches. The creative performance has less stitches than the creative icon in each menu. And if I remember right, it's about, I want to say it's about a $500 stitch count difference. There's quite a bit of difference between the two. It might not be that high, but it does have every category, just not as many. So let's go over all the parts that would have came with your creative icon. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take off our tray here because I have put everything in its tray for us to go over what you should have in here. The 0A foot does come directly on the machine, and then the zigzag plate is also on the machine. On the bottom of your tray is where you store your single needle plate, and there's a hole right here to be able to push this to the right and pull it up to get it out, and then you put it in to the right first and gently push to the right so that rests in on the left hand side. You have wonderful storage in the back of your tray as well as in the front of your tray here. Oh, and I tilted mine so all my feet went everywhere. That's what happens if you tilt it upside down and stuff, but that's okay. We're going to go over all your parts. So in the back of the tray is a perfect spot to actually store your 5A foot, which is your buttonhole foot. This actually plugs into the machine kind of on the back left hand side for it to know how that you want to do the buttonholes. Also, what I have stored in the back of the tray is my extra bobbin case. So this bobbin case is actually for when you are sewing using needle left position, so that it actually gives you better tension control. So that's why they gave you a separate bobbin case. You will have multiple thread caps. You'll have 2 large thread caps. You will have 2 medium thread caps and 2 small thread caps, as well as a thread base. Okay, that goes directly on the machine. So it only comes with one of those thread bases there, and I can't seem to get that on the machine. Also, I have stored in the back here is my 2 cone supports. So if you're using cone thread, this will help support the cones on your machine itself. And then it should have come with 3 thread nets. So the thread nets are actually so that you can open them up. And if you have a thread that's giving you problems by coming down and wrapping around, or like metallic or anything, you can actually cover them with the thread net. I'm all thumbs today. With the thread net, so that the thread actually comes directly off the top of the machine when you thread the machine. So that's why you have the thread nets. Then in the front of the machine, the storage, we will have several feet that are available for you. So it should have the 1A foot, which is your pattern foot with IDT, your 2A foot, which is your pattern foot without the IDT. So what I mean by that is a cutout in the back for your built-in walking foot back here. Any foot that has the cutout in the back, like this one does, will accept that IDT. So that one will, this one will not. Okay. Your number 3 foot, which is your blind hem, or also known as your overcast. Your 5M foot, which is your manual buttonhole foot. And you'll notice that it has this point at the top. In your tray here, if I tilt it just right, there is a spot where there's a little hole right there for you to actually store. That's the one spot that one's supposed to store, and that's why there's a little hole there. Your number 4 foot, which is your zipper foot, which is this guy here. And this is how he snaps on. He'll snap on the left or the right, so you can use your IDT either on the left or the right. So when you snap on your feet, the number 4 should be readable. If you snap it on this way, the foot's upside down and will not work properly. So this one is how it goes on. The next thing that we have is your 8 foot. This is your maxi stitch foot, so your stitches that sew larger than 9 millimeters, most of them. Some of them won't ask for this, but we'll get into that when we get into your stitches. Then this is a specialty foot that's new to this machine. It has a flange in the middle. It looks very similar to the narrow edge foot, but it's not the same by the way that this is created. It has this little wedge back here that's been removed on the back side of the machine, the foot, which is right here where my finger is, okay? And this is actually meant for when you're doing some of your new decorative stitches. For instance, I use it for when I do the floating stitches, and I use it for when I'm doing the lace edge stitches, so the freestanding laces that are on here, which we'll have a video for that as well. This is your 6A foot, if I remember right. I know it's number 6, but I think it's the A, and this is your clear snap-on free motion darning foot. It can be used for embroidery as well. It's just not as ideal. The more ideal one that also comes with it is your 6D dynamic foot, and we'll get into the dynamic foot in the actual embroidery class. That will be definitely a separate video. Along with it, you should have got about 10 bobbins. And then we would have a package, a variety of PFAFF Inspire needles, a screwdriver, your seam ripper, and then a lint-free cleaning brush. So the other thing you would have got would have been hoop clips, and that might have been with the embroidery unit itself, or it could have been in your baggie. I can't remember when I opened mine how it came. And then also 3 embroidery hoops, a canvas cover for the machine, and a canvas case with foam for your embroidery unit. Okay, so let me get it all cleaned up and put back together, and let's start showing you how to wind a bobbin and thread the machine. All right, here we are at the top of the machine. So when you get the machine out of the box, you would actually open the lid. Okay, you saw me close it all up, but you open the lid. The antenna here on the right hand side just pulls directly up, and then your spool pins come directly up, and then you put your base on this one. This one has the shell of the machine protecting it and giving it a nice flat area right here, so you don't need to put anything there. But this one, because it is open right here, you don't want your spool to rock, so you would put it on this way. This is the way I use it, where it's flat on the top. I do know that I have customers that do prefer it this way, so the spool lays in here. It's probably just a preference. I like it this way because if the thread starts to wrap around the end of the post and I need to see that I need to put my thread net on, I can see it better here. Okay, to wind a bobbin, we would use our second spool pin here, and I would put my thread on here, and I'm going to come directly up, and I go into here I am coming across here. Let's get you guys in the party here. There we go. So I come straight across here and bring around and pull straight down until it goes all the way in. Okay. Then I would bring you right over here. Okay. Now what I need to do is I need to go through this guy here. So I'm going to take my thread that my tail is hanging down. My tail's down here, okay? And so I'm taking it like I'm flossing. I'm going to put it in and I'm going to pull it all the way back. So where my thread is going, let's see if I can show you that, is, okay, pop you guys out a little bit. It's so hard when I don't have a camera person. Is my thread is being popped in all the way on this side and all the way on this side, okay? You'll hear it when it pops in, it'll click. So let me do that again so you hear it. Okay, so it'll click. Okay, then the next thing we do is there is a metal piece here and just right here, and I am going to go in the lower section of it, so right underneath. Then I come right on over to the bobbin winder itself, which is right here. I get a bobbin. Now I do have some people that like to wrap the thread around, or they like to go through the hole. I like to go through the hole. So with the PFAFF up on the bobbin, only one side has the PFAFF. That is the way you need to put it on here, because that's the way it will fit on here. Okay. If you have PFAFF down, it won't go all the way on. It won't let you. Okay. So the PFAFF does have to be up to snap in. there is one hole on either, on just the side that has the PFAFF. I like to thread it through that hole. Okay, and then, so I've gone through the middle of the bobbin, up through the hole, and I'm going to put it directly up with the PFAFF up. Then there's a little nubby thing here. I'm going to push it over to the right, and when that happens on my screen, I get a speed control. Let me show you that. So on my screen here, I actually, so if I undo my bobbin winder, see it goes away. When I push the bobbin winder lever to the right, my bobbin winder comes up. Your foot control will not wind your bobbin. This is done by a separate motor controlled by your on-screen display here. I can change the speed of my bobbin here, of how slow or how fast I want to I'm not sitting right in front of it, so it's really hard to get this to move. Let me get right in front of it. So how slow or fast I would like to wind my bobbin. I never wind my bobbin at full speed. I think it does it too fast. If you are using monofilament thread, you always want to be no more than half the speed of winding your bobbin, and you never fill it more than halfway for monofilament thread. I'm just using everyday sewing thread, so I'm going to do mine just a couple clicks below, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to touch the play key when I'm ready. So let me show you how to hold your bobbin for when you're pressing that key. So again, I have my lever pushed to the right. I'm holding my thread and my bobbin up in my left hand, and with my right hand, I'm going to come over here and touch the go key, and it's just going to start. Okay? Now I'm going to press that go key again, which looked like a pause, to stop it so I can, my thread broke because of how fast it was going. So you could break it or you can use your scissors, but you want to get that thread flush with the bobbin. And then go ahead and go until it pops out. So you see it's going up and down pretty good. It will tend to want to fill at the top first, and just because there's a groove in there, and then it'll move up and down. Now that it's full, it popped this off automatically to the left so that it stopped winding. So I could take my bobbin off and I could come over here and around this and cut it, because that's a blade. Okay? Well, let's show you how to install your bobbin. Installing your bobbin is pretty easy. We know if you have a PFAFF like the Creative Sensation or Creative Performance, Creative Vision, you know, any of the other ones that have this drop-in bobbin, you could pull this bobbin cover towards you. Not anymore. It has this door latch right here. So I'm going to just go ahead and come and pull this to the right and see how my door pops up. It doesn't always pop up that vigorously. For some reason, mine just did. A lot of times it'll just pop up a little bit. So I take out my bobbin. I'm going to take my new bobbin, and you do want to make sure the thread's going over the top and to the left, okay? If I have it this way with the PFAFF logo down, it won't fit in my bobbin case. It won't let you. It has to be with the PFAFF logo up with the thread going to the left, and then it'll go directly in there. Now let me get you guys closer so you can see this. Now there is a little opening right here, okay? Don't know if you guys can see that. It's very hard to see. Let me get to you closer maybe. Yeah, so there is an opening kind of right here. So I'm going to bring my thread and I'm going to go into that opening until I hear that little click. Then I come up to the top, around the top of this guy here, and then I have another one here. I'm going to go right there. Then I'm going to take my bobbin cover again, and I'm going to just put it directly into the left and push straight down. And I'm going to take my thread and pull to the left to cut it. Okay? Let's show you how to thread the machine. All right, now to thread your machine, I am going to thread it with a purple thread so we can see, decorative purple thread, so we can see what we're doing. I'm just going to put my spool down there. It does not matter if your thread is cross-fed or goes up and down. I always use my thread upright on the base because the machine is designed for that. And again, if you have problems with your thread coming down and wrapping around the post, put a thread net on it. That's what they're for. I am now going to take my thread and I'm going to come up here and get it all the way snapped into my guide there. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to now go through this guy right here. Okay, so let me get you guys just set a bit more. I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to wrap it directly in here, and I'm going to go along the back side of the machine all the way. Okay, so now I have my tension assembly right here. okay? And you'll see it's kind of like a movable flange right there. Now, dealers around the country, I have noticed, all talk about what side you should put this on. Some say it doesn't matter, some say it does. In our store, we do seem to think it matters when you're using a single thread. I want us to be on the right side of it. This is your tension assembly flange right here, okay? And so I'm going to be on the right side of it because we just feel, because your active stitch is located right in here, which is those 3 independent rollers, which is your other tensioning system, that we just feel if the thread's on the right hand side, it lines directly up with those active stitch. So that's why we're doing that. So again, I have gone on the right side of this, and I'm going to come directly down. So I'm going to come directly down and around the nose of the machine. I am going to come back up, and now I need to go through the take-up lever. The take-up lever is right here. That is the highest it goes, so I'm going to go from right to left to grab it. Now I am holding on to my thread over here with my other hand, with my right hand. That way I get a good tensioning on it for when I'm trying to go through this area, which I just dropped it. Okay, so when I go from right to left, when I bring it out, see how my thread is directly across from the machine, just like that? If my thread had dropped and came from the bottom up, then I know I'm not in that take-up lever. And now I'm going to come straight down towards the needle. Now that I'm at the needle, coming across the needle right here on my needle bar is my needle guide. It's on the right-hand side, so I'm going to pull from the right into the left. Now on my threader itself, right here in the threader, I am going to go into that bracket right here that's right in front of you, then go right into here till it snaps in. And then on the side of the machine here, I have a thread cutter, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Now what I'm going to do is on the top of the machine, I have my needle threader right here. I'm going to press that here just a second. Now anytime you use your needle threader, make sure there's nothing in the way over here. It can't sense if you have something here. You don't want your needle threader to hit anything. So I'm going to press that button, and I'll lower my foot and thread my needle for you. And then all I do is take that tail and put directly underneath, and we're ready to sew. Okay, here we are at the machine, and right now my machine is in the screensaver mode because I've had it on while we were talking. If I just touch it, yours would actually go right to this home screen right here. So what you would do at this time is you would want to pick what you want to do. Do you want to start sewing, start embroidery, low for my sew net, go to the help center? So you have different options here. What I'm going to do, start sewing today, because that's what this lesson's about, is sewing. So I just start sewing. So here's my screen. I know it's really hard to see. I do apologize for that. We're having a hard time filming the screen, but we're going to do our best today. What I would like to do is when you touch the screen, you're directly on straight stitch. So what I would like to do is talk about this block up here. This block right up here on your machine, there we go, tells you what's going on with your machine, okay? So right now I am hooked to my Wi-Fi, so it is touched right up here. If you wanted to hook to your Wi-Fi, you would just touch that little Wi-Fi emblem and find your Wi-Fi on the screen and touch it and put in your password, okay? That's all you have to do. And then to get out of this box, just touch above it and the box closes. The next thing is I'm actually signed into my SewNet. I will have a separate class about how to register with my SewNet and get everything linked so you would know how to do that. If you already know because of prior machines, you would just actually touch this so that you could log into my SewNet, which I'm already signed in. You'll see that there's my name. So I'm already signed in and how much I have used out of my free space from the company. Again, touch above to close. The next thing we have here is recommended for the stitch I have chosen. By default, it's on straight stitch, so it's recommending stitch foot 0A. And it looks like there's a boot with grass underneath. The boot actually is telling you to engage your IDT, and the grass underneath, which that's what it looks like to me, is actually saying the feed dogs are up. The next thing is your speed. Right now I'm at 60%. On the side of the machine over here, let's bring it to the side of the machine. Right over here on the right hand side of the machine, we have 2 USB ports, and then this is your slider for your speed control. So all the way up it would be full speed, and all the way down to be the smallest speed. And there's 10 different levels here. Okay, so it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100%. Okay, and then this is where you plug in your foot control and power cord. So on the screen, if we come back here, on the screen, if I play with that guide, see, it'll bring up my dialog box for my speed so that I can see exactly by bars where I'm at. But more than that, I can see over here that it says that I'm at 60%. The next thing it's telling me is my active stitch technology is activated. So it's not using that tension assembly I was showing you earlier, that flange. It's actually using what's called the 3 rollers. Let me show you what those are. Okay, so I took off the nose of the machine real quick so I could show you what these 3 rollers are. They look like 3 bullets. You can see 2 of them right here. So there's 2 here, and then there's another one right back here. And these are another set of tensioning that kind of spool or meter out your thread for you. So using persnickety thread like metallic, polished polyester, sliver thread, monofilament thread that sometimes likes to stretch and break under a traditional tension unit will actually just meter out with these. Okay, so your machine will by default tell you when it's using it by coming back over here to that recommendation here, and I can see that by default it is turned on the active stitch technology for me automatically. Okay, so you really don't have to worry about it unless you have gone into your settings and turned it off. There are times that I do turn it off. We do talk about that a little bit more in detail in more of the advanced classes, but usually other than that, you will just let the machine decide when to do it. I think I said usually. I don't usually turn it off. I usually have it on. I think I said that wrong. But every once in a while I'll turn it off depending on what I'm doing. And it's really has to do with my embroidery quilting when I play with that. Other than that, I don't play with it at all. Over here on the right hand side, we have this little menu that can grow in size or decrease in size depending on things you have open. So right now, it just is a quick menu to get to my sewing stitches or to my cloud, or also known as SewNet. See the blue bars at the top? That means I can put my finger on it and hover, and I can actually move this wherever I want on the screen. So if it's in my way, I can move it. The main way to get to your sewing stitches would be to select the main menu. So that's this one in the far right hand corner. If I select that, it's going to come up to my select stitch. Okay, so on the select stitch, let me try to get out here a little bit so you can see the screen better. If you have this machine and you're doing it with me, you'll be able to see better on your machine what I'm seeing. So at the very top, it goes to straight stitch or select stitch. On the bottom, there are other options. There is select design. So if I touch that pink one there, then my designs would come up. And then select font is the very bottom one. So I select that and all my fonts come up. So, but because I'm in sewing, select stitch is the default to come up for me because it assumes that because I'm sewing, I want to see my stitches. Pretty smart machine. So right now I am in category 1. Subcategory 1, which that's what the 1.1 means over here in the corner. Okay, and I am seeing my normal utility stitches, my straight stitch, my stretch straight stitch. Number 4, so you know, is a straight stitch that sews backwards. We get phone calls on that sometimes saying my machine sewing backwards, and there's a couple reasons why. You either press your reverse key before you started sewing and didn't just activate it, or you selected number 4. Okay, then your zigzags and stretch and your blind and your honeycomb. But if you look down here, I have other menus, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So that's category 1, subcategory 2. Category 1, subcategory 3. Okay, so that's how these are referred to. So if I want to go to my buttonholes, it would be the category 1, subcategory 3, 1.3, and here are my buttonholes. And then if I want to get to my eyelet darnings, those are in the number 4 subcategory, and there they are. Okay. On the top here, you will see your different categories as you come across. Okay. And I love the fact that everything has words. They're not special little images anymore that you have to memorize to know what they are. They actually tell you what things are by using words. Big change from the prior machines, which has been fabulous. So if I want quilting, I would just touch the quilting, and my quilting menu and quilting submenus will come up. Okay, so I have 2 submenus. If I want to see more of these, I just take my finger and I'm going to slide my finger across, and this will move with me, okay? So that you have different categories. So we're in quilting right now. We have needle art, satin, number 5 is decorative, 6 is miscellaneous, 7 is monogram, 8 is techniques, and 9 is additional. So techniques, when you bought this, most likely we would have showed you some samples using the exclusive stitches by the company, by PFAFF. And so that's where you're going to find your single ribbon stitches, your double ribbon, triple ribbon, your stacking, floating, radiant, and lace stitches are all right in here. In the additional, these are ones that generally would call for a specialty foot. So we have some specialty feet to do some special applications that they went ahead and designed stitches for those feet so that you have some stitches to play with them. For instance, the first 11 stitches here are candle wicking. So the candle wicking, let's see if you guys can see this, is right here on my model, and see how raised they are. They are just really nice raised stitches. This is one of the single ribbon stitches. And right here with the green and the hearts is a stacking stitch. And this is actually done on a wallet. Okay, so, and it's sewn on, this is cork fabric, so actual cork. So it was actually sewn on that. So those are some of the techniques and additional stitches. Okay, so what the additional one would be the candle wicking. Then we have ones for the lace edge, the 3-hole cording, the couple of other different feet in there. And then below that is where you'll find your directional sewing stitches for sewing on patches and stuff on your pants. So that's everything in here. So if I wanted to just be on straight stitch, your machine defaulted to straight stitch, so it'd be under utility and number 1, and then now I'm on straight stitch. The next thing I would like to show you is what if I want to change the size of my stitches. So down at the bottom here, I have more options at the bottom of my screen. Okay, so the first thing here is stitch edit, and when I touch that, it will open up my stitch edit right here, which will give me needle position, so I can move my needle to the right or to the left. And notice it turned green. It turned green so that I know I have altered it, and once it comes back to the white, I know it's back to default. And this one is my stitch length. I have tension down here, 4.6. Well, that's interesting because it's telling my active stitches on, but it's giving me tension. I have to check that out. Okay, and then also I have where I can flip and mirror and some other things that we'll get into later. If you're used to having your tie-offs on your other machines, this is where you'd find it. So my tie-offs are right here, and I touch it and I turn these on. Tie off beginning, tie off the end, and thread cut. Now, if I look at my screen and my information over here, because I turned those on, it's now telling me under active features that my tie off the beginning, tie off the end, and thread cutter is on. So this will tell you features you have turned on, okay? Now what I'm going to do is we are going to sew. Okay, so you probably have noticed that you don't have a pressure foot lift on this machine. It has been removed, which is actually, as a quilter, is fabulous. I used to get my quilts stuck on that, and sorry I keep kicking the camera, I'm trying to reach the foot control. So because of that, I can either put this right underneath and just step on my foot control, and it will automatically start to sew for me, okay? And then when I'm ready for it to do the tie off in the end, I can press my reverse key while it's in motion, which is that bottom key right here, and it would tie off, cut, and raise my foot for me so I could pull it out. Now let's say I am trying to line this up perfectly using my 1/4-inch foot, which I just realized was not in this machine when I showed you all the feet. It comes with a 1/4-inch foot as well. I'm going to have to find where my 1/4-inch foot is. So what I'm going to do now is if I want to lower the foot manually, I could lower the foot right here, okay, and bring it down. But let's say, if you look, I don't have it exactly where I want. If I want my foot on the edge, it's over to the left too far. So if I press my pressure foot down key again, so I'm going to press it again, my foot has gone into what's called a hover mode. So it hasn't moved up all the way, it's just hovering, so I could draw my fabric in where I want. Then I can start sewing and continue to go. So that's called the hover mode. So at least that's what I call it. And sorry, the sewer's not sewing very straight. Okay. Okay, so again, I press the pressure foot down to activate it down, then I press it down again and it pops it up. And it pops it up just high enough for whatever thickness fabric you're using, which is really cool. Let's say I'm trying to use something really thick though. If I press my up key here, my pressure foot will come up. Okay, so I'm gonna go down, so my pressure foot came up. I'm gonna press the up key again, and now it's really high and it dropped my feed dogs. Now my feed dogs are still engaged, okay? But it dropped it because I'm trying to get something really thick in there, let's say I was trying to get something really, really, really thick in there, like this. Okay, your feed dogs can scrape on the fabric as you're trying to push it in. So once I get this in here and I start to sew, my feed dogs would come directly up. And sorry, this is a bit thick for it, but you can see it will do it. But I got a little overzealous on showing you guys that. Okay, but it did do it. It did. I don't have the proper needle in it or the proper thread. You should not use rayon thread for that. But you know that it did do it. This also has what's called a drill option on it. So if you're doing something really thick, like sewing the top of a bag or something, and if it senses it's too thick and can't get through, the needle will rapidly go up and down to punch down the fiber to get it started, and then it will sew through. And it does it automatically by itself. It's another one of the features that it has. The other really cool thing about this machine is it has the same needle penetration at the slowest speed as it does at the highest speed. And that's not normally the case for machines. This one does, and that's really cool. And same with the performance icon, they both do. Okay, so let's say I want to do a decorative stitch. Right now I'm using my 0A foot, and the 0A foot is correct for all your utility sewing. So if you're sewing on jeans, hemming up jeans, for sure you want your 0A foot. If you're doing terry cloth, anything that's like utility work, you want your 0A foot. All your other feet are for your decorative sewing work. So let's go ahead and show you one of those. All right, so I'm back to my screen here, and what I want to show you again is I could go in and select by going into the top right hand corner to my main menu, come in and select any of my decorative stitches. So wherever I was at, it's going to take me to right away. Now you might see a red light on this video on your screen. That's my camera, okay? You won't have a red light on your screen. That's reflecting of my camera. It was really hard to get us set up so we didn't get too much reflection. I actually have a black thing behind us so that you can't see all the reflection of everything behind us. So this tablet screen is fabulous for when we're sewing, but not great for recording. Okay, so what we're going to do now is if I want to go to another stitch, let's say I want to go to quilting and I want to do a stippling stitch. I'm going to go into my 2.2 right here, and here are my stitches. All the stitches in here are by default 9mm, but what's also nice about this machine is they've also put all your maxi stitches in with your regular stitches. They used to have their own category, and I will admit, with my prior PFAFFs, I barely ever went into the maxi stitches because I would forget about them because they were in their own categories. So this one, the first 9 stitches are all 9mm, which is the standard width of the machine. From stitch 10 all the way through 22, these are maxi stitches. So what I mean by that is if I select number 9, which is a maxi, is a 9mm, on my screen I can see that it comes up from dotted line to dotted line that this is actual size a 9mm stitch. It is recommending that I change to a 1A foot, that my IDT is engaged, as well as now I have a piece of paper right here which is indicating that it would like a stabilizer. If you're using this for quilting and you're using batting, batting acts as your stabilizer, so you don't need to add anything else other than that. Let's show you that stitch. Okay, first of all, it is asking for my IDT, so I do need to engage that. So that is going to be found kind of like right here, okay? So I'm going to take my finger on the back of this and I'm going to pull it all the way down and put it underneath my foot, okay? If I don't want this, I'd put my fingers on either side of it, pull it down in a way, and it would disengage. But I do want it, so I'm going to snap that back down. Now we need to change our foot from the 0A to the 1A. Sorry for how shaky that was, but I have to hold the camera for that view. I couldn't get the stand over there. So, oh, I go too fast. Sorry, let me put that back on there. So to change your foot will be really simple. We're just going to push down on the front toe so that it comes directly off, okay? I am then going to open up my tray, and in my tray, I am going to find that I have a foot that has know it's hard to focus on, but it has a number 1 here and an A on this side, okay? So I'm looking for the foot that has the 1 on the left-hand side and the A. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to my ankle, and your ankle has kind of like a claw on it, and I'm going to bring these posts up underneath that claw, and I am going to push it straight up, okay? I actually never lower my foot onto it anymore because I don't have that pressure foot lift to do that anymore. And because I don't have that pressure foot lift to do that, it's easier to push it straight up. I don't want the whole poundage of using my pressure foot down key to hit wrong, and I just worry about that. It's just easier to push it up. Okay, so now I'm going to put my stabilizer underneath because I'm just using a piece of fabric, and now I would sew. Because my tie-off features were on, it did tie off the beginning, and now it's doing the stippling. Now I'm using purple thread just so it's easier to see. If I was doing this on a quilt, I would match my thread top and bottom because it's just better on a quilt to do that. I am going to use my reverse key once so that I activate my tie-off so you guys can just see how big the 9mm is. By pressing the reverse key, notice that it didn't stop right away. It's taking it to the end of the pattern before the repeat. So I pressed it right after it started the repeat, obviously. So it took it to the end to finish it for me. And now that is the stitch. And I need to change my needle, but you get the idea. There is the stitch. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to the screen and select the other one. Okay, so back here at the screen, I could select the main menu again right up here, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my stitch. Oh, I did too quick here. My straight stitch zigzag one right here. I'm going to select that, and it's going to open up my menu. Take me a quick link right back to my other menu. And I'm going to now touch number 10, and I'm going to touch the same key to close it. Now this stippling stitch is on my screen, and see how much bigger it is? And that is actual size. Now it's telling me it prefers the 8 foot because again this is a maxi stitch. So let's do that. Alright, now let's sew this bigger one so you can see the difference. So I'm going to come a little bit of ways from my other one. Oh wait, we have to actually do some things. I apologize. You do need to disengage your IDT. We do need to take off the 1A foot and go to the 8, and you'll notice that the 8 does not have the cutout in the back for the IDT. And then I'm going to come right underneath, keep the thread from getting into the ankle, come right underneath, and then we are just going to push those directly up. Now what reminded me was when I went to go sew, the machine actually did tell me on the screen it did not recommend the IDT, and that's how it reminded me that I hadn't changed my foot or the IDT. So that was really cool. So machine will tell you that. Now if you are choosing to use the IDT when they tell you not to, obviously you can't do it with this foot, or if you are not using the IDT when they recommend it and gives you the message, just start sewing again and the message won't pop up again. Okay, so let's check this one out. One, I'm going to touch the reverse key again. So this way you can see the differences. So the Maxi compared to the 9mm. There's some really fabulous ones in here that I really do like. So let me bring you over and show you some. So again, I'm going to quick link into my screen here, and then all my stitches will come up. So I really like number 14 and number 15. 17 is one of my favorite ones. And you could actually sew these in rows next to each other and make your own quilted fabric. And it comes out really nice. You can go ahead and go through this by categories at the top. So if I want to go into my decorative, and I can see all of my stitches here. I can swipe to the right again, but notice that when I did that, when I swiped to the right, it changed my category. Now I'm on 6, so I swipe this way, it changed my category to 5. If I want the subcategories, I gotta look here, 5.1, .2, .3, .4. So my subcategories are located on the side now. So some other things I want to show you is, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to select a decorative stitch, and we close the menu. So I selected one in category 5, subcategory 3, stitch 1, which is this really nice little lacy-like stitch right there. Now, if I wanted to play with it stitch width and length, I would have to come down here and go into my stitch edit right down here. What I like about this machine though is if I didn't want to always have to open up my stitch edit and I wanted to be able to play with my stitch width and my stitch length, I can actually move these. Right above stitch edit here, I have this little icon that I could press just right there, that little icon, and see how these certain things got these other icons on them? That means I can long hold this and I can move this up on my screen, and I can long hold this one and move it up on my screen. Okay, so what this is for my stitch width and my stitch length directly on my screen here. So I'm going to close my edit, and now if I wanted to play with this stitch, I could change the width. I could change the width right here, and I could change the length without having to open up my edit screen. Now let's go ahead and go back to another stitch. I'm going to open up, and let's say I want to do that's funny, it took me back to quilting here. I wonder why it did that. But if let's say I want to go to utility and I want to go to my honeycomb stitch, okay, and close it. And now my honeycomb stitch is up. These are still there. I can even turn off my machine and turn it back on, and these will still be here. So this is personalizing your screen to what you want to see. Okay, if I decide later I do not want these anymore, I could just hit the X and they disappear. They're gone. They're off my screen. But they're still in my stitch edit down here. They're still in here. So again, to get it, this little, by the stitch edit, this little blue icon, I touch that. Touch with my dominant hand here. And then anything I can move. So I can move my width, I can move my length, I could move my mirror options, and I can move my tension all up on the screen. So again, I can move that up. And then I can move that one up. Okay. Then if I want, I could go back to my straight stitch, because there's another one. If I go back into here and go back into my utility stitches, go back into straight stitch and close this, my width control here is grayed out, because down here, if I look, I have this one. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but this one, believe it or not, is kind of grayed out. But this one is still available for me to move up here, because in straight stitch, that's my needle positions. Okay, so with all those there, I could close my edit screen and I can arrange these any ways I want. And now I could change my length, and now I could change my needle position. Okay, so again, if I go back and select a stitch, which I can either do the main menu on the top right or my quick pick, whichever. I could go in, and now let's say I want to select that maxi stitch, close it out. Now my needle position has grayed out because it's not a straight stitch, but my width and my length are still available. Okay, there's actually quite a bit more you could do there, but I'm going to stop right there for you guys, okay, on that part of it, because I don't want to overwhelm you too much today. On this, because there's a lot you could do. I don't like having a lot of things on my screen, so I close them all up, and I don't mind opening the stitch edit menu to go in. But I know that I have some people who they don't want to go in there every time. They just want it to be on their screen to play with, and that's totally fine. It's your machine. You can do that. And if you turn off the machine and turn it back on, it will remember that, and they'll still be there until you hit that X. All right, some other things that we have down here is down at the bottom is I have stitch repeat. So we used to have to know that symbol. That's what I'm talking about the fact that they're now using words instead of just symbols. So it's the same symbol we know, but now it tells us what it is. So I can touch my stitch repeat, and in here is where I can find my single pattern. So I'm going to touch my single pattern, and with this maxi stitch, I could say that I want 2 or even 3 of them, or however many I want, and on my screen, it would only give me those 3. So when I sew, it will literally sew those 3. Let's show you that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm already set up for maxi stitch. I'm going to put this in, and now because I know that I can sew and only get the 3, I'm not going to use my foot pedal. I'm going to use right here is my start stop key. So I'm going to just press that and let it go. Okay, so I'm going to just press that. It's going to do the tie off, and away it goes. So it will stitch all 3 automatically. I don't have to touch anything, and when it gets down down to the third one here in just a second. Probably should have done two, but that's okay. You get the idea. If I get down to the third one here, it will actually start to tie off. It will cut and raise the foot for me. So all I had to do was press go. Okay, and there it is. Very cool, huh? I like that stitch. Okay, for us free motion quilters that are out there, I also have one down here at the bottom called free motion quilting. This is the one you would press if you want to do your free motion quilting. Imagine that. That's, you know, exactly it. You guys are getting this. So when I do that though, it wants to know what foot do I want to use. Do I want to use my dynamic spring foot 6D? That came with it. Or do I want to do my spring free motion foot? That is optional. It even says optional, which means that is a purchase foot. That's an add-on. Or do I want to do my Sensormatic free motion foot? That one came with it. That was the clear one. So the Sensormatic free motion foot looks like that. That's the Sensormatic one. The 6D looks like that. Okay, they both came with it. Or free motion ruler foot. It says optional. Now, if you're going to use a ruler foot for your ruler quilting, this one is the PFAFF ruler foot, not the Westerly ruler foot. Westerly is another brand we carry in our store, as well as the PFAFF one. And the PFAFF machines that have sorry, we'll show you that later. The PFAFF machines that have the free motion ruler foot as an option on their machines, those are the ones you can use the PFAFF version of the ruler foot. If your machine doesn't give you that option, you have to buy the Westerly one. And you can't use that setting if you're using the Westerly one. So when you come in for those ruler work free motion classes that we have, we'll go over in more detail why and how you set them up. But here they are. So the one I like to use the most is the Sensormatic free motion one if I'm not doing my ruler work. And so I'll touch that. And you should have heard this click. And that was my feed dogs automatically lowering. So if I come up here and look, it's going to tell me up here, it just recommends a stabilizer, which if you're free motion quilting, that would be your batting. Right now I'm free motioning this Maxi stitch. You could free motion any stitch on here. It gives you the needle movement. It won't look like that unless I'm really good about feeding it. But free motion embroiders who do free motion filled embroidery by free motion, you guys are really familiar with using other stitches for your free motion for making your fills and stuff. I haven't played with that yet. The next one is my speed control, and then it was telling me is my active stitch technology is activated, my Sensormatic is activated. Unfortunately, my single pattern is also activated, and I would take that off. So I would just simply touch my single pattern menu here, touch it again to take that off, and if you look, it came off the menu. That's why this menu is so important to look at, because I then saw that I had something on I didn't want on. The other thing is my tie-offs are on and my thread cut. Not necessary for free motion. Matter of fact, you're controlling it, so it's not going to be a benefit to you. So we would come down here to the bottom again, and if you look, see how it's blue? It's telling you it's on. So if I touch the blue one, green means the menu is open. And I touch these to take them off. Okay, I touch it again to close it. See how it's white? It's telling me it's not activated. But my free motion is blue, therefore it is activated. And my screen is very touchy today. I accidentally touched balance. That'll be later. So my free motion is blue, which is telling me it is activated or on. But if I touch it, see how it turns green? Again, that's telling me it's on. The green there is telling me it's on. So those are the colors for you to get to know. So white means it's not on or activated. Green means it's selected or open. No, if it's a menu. Okay, and then you could free motion. All right. The next thing we have here that we're going to just do as a real quick little get to know is your stitch sequence. So if I go into stitch sequence here, the stitch sequence will come up, and what stitch sequence is basically to be able to take designs that already exist in sewing format, so sewing stitches, sewing fonts, and put them together. So if I wanted to type a name, I could select my alphabet, and my keyboard down here pops up. And the keyboard is in keyboard setting is not in alphabetical order, which is fantastic. So if I'm going to type my name, I'm going to put in my first letter, go to lowercase by undoing the upper right here. Okay, so undo it. So I'm just going to go ahead and type my name, and I love it's in keyboard order because I can see it. Now on my screen it's building, but I can't see it because for some reason my menu here is in its way. So I'm going to touch the menu and pull it out of the way, and I'm also going to close the menu by touching the A because the A was open. Now you can see there's my name, and it does have an E on the end. It's just green to let me know that's where it's at. And then when I'm ready, all you do is sew, and I will get that name. Let's show you that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sew, and I'm just going to go ahead here. And unfortunately, my free motion's still on. Goodness gracious. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do a couple things. Actually, this is a good thing to show you because, you know, when you're playing and you're learning your machine at home, or if you know it really well, like I do, you tend to forget things or you don't know things to do. So free motion is something that if I turned off the machine, it would remember because it's got it set. You can have it set up for free motion. So again, by looking at my upper, I would have known that I had it on, or the fact that this is blue. So I touch it to open the menu, and I undo it. So that's now off. Touch it again to close the menu. The next thing is right now, if I was to sew this, it would look at that on my screen. It's just going to sew my name over and over and over again. Well, I'm going to use my single pattern. So I'm going to go into stitch repeat, and I'm going to tell it single pattern, and that I want 1. Okay? And now, when I come over here to sew, I'm going to be ready. However, when I started this a moment ago, I had already started by a couple stitches in when I discovered this with you guys. So I have another key I'm going to show you up here. So up here on our front panel here, we have different keys. So press your foot up or extra high lift, press your foot down or press it again for the hover. That's your needle threader, your manual thread cut, or you press this while you're sewing, it would go to the end of the pattern and cut. Just like you would if you use the reverse key with using your tie-offs. This is an immediate now tie-off. So wherever you are in the pattern, if you need a tie-off and you don't have room to wait for it to get to the end of the heart or the scallop, you press that and it'll tie off wherever you're at. This is the one I want. This one here is your pattern restart. I had already started sewing, so I already took a few stitches. So by pressing that, it's going to take my stitch back to the beginning. And this is your needle down. So you could press that to activate your needle down every time you sew. So now, with that in mind, I already pressed that pattern restart. I am going to start in a new spot, and away I go. Towards the end, I have 2 more letters left. I know that because I'm looking at my screen. My screen is changing according to what letter it's on. At the end of this letter here, it will tie off. Well, actually, no, it won't tie off because all I did is follow a single pattern. If I had my tie-offs and cuts set up like I did earlier, it would have done it. And there it is. There's my name in 9mm. Okay? Another one I'm going to just show you really quickly. We're not going to get into too much detail because this is just a quick getting started like video, is your stitch creator. Your stitch creator differs from your other one that we were in because this is one that you can either alter your stitches that are in your machine by editing them or changing them, or you can make stitches from scratch. This will sew a 9mm stitch, okay? So it's 9mm you can do. But let's say I wanted to edit a stitch. There's a stitch in my machine that I love. However, I don't think it sews out bold enough. It's a single thread stitch. So if I'm using a rayon thread, excuse me, if I'm using something like a rayon thread or a polished polyester 40 weight, it's not very noticeable. And then sometimes I don't want to use those silky blendables because I want that sheer. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to go get my stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and open my menu here. And it's in number 5, the stitch I want. So I want to go to number 5. It's in 5-3 and it's stitch 1. Okay, and then I'm going to close this. It comes up and it comes up all in green. Isn't that a pretty stitch? And it shows you by repeat what it's going to look like. down at the bottom down here, we have an edit, okay? Go ahead and touch that edit. Now this is something really simple to do because it's a single stitch outline. I want to make it into a triple stitch. As long as all your stitches on your screen are green, that means they're all selected, they're all activated, and that's what this means up here. They're all selected. I'm going to come down here to the bottom right, and it has this little 3X. I'm going to touch that icon, and look, it just became a triple stitch. Now what I could do is I'd press OK, and I'm ready to sew it. Once I've sewn it, if I like what it looks like, I could save it. To save, you have this heart that's below your screen. I would touch the heart, and it'll come up and wants to save it in my sew net, and it called it new stitch.px SPX is what it called it. The SPX stands for the format for the decorative stitch. I am going to delete that by using my back key, and I'm going to call it triple 5.3.1 because I want to know what stitch it originally was, and so by me naming it that, I can go look at the original 5.3.1 stitch and know, oh, okay, that's the triple version of it, or I could just open it up. And it's in my sew net, so I'm going to press OK, and now it will be saved in my machine. Okay, so now let's say I've gone in, and let's go ahead and just select a different stitch. Okay, I just selected a random different stitch. Let's say I want to use that one that's in the sew net. I'm going to go up to the very top of my main menu. That's how I get there. And then I'm going to go into File Manager. And my sew net, I have quite a bit in it because I've logged into it. But if I was to scroll down, it's right here. Triple 5.3, and that's how I can touch it. Long hold it to select it. There we go. And there it is. See, it's pretty user-friendly. The machine's very, very user-friendly. Now what I like to do is I would like to show you a little bit of the settings area, because in the settings screen you can do some more things to make this a little bit more personalized to you. All right, in the settings screen, how you get to it is right down here on the bottom. It's that blue key. It looks like a cog, and you're going to touch that blue key, and it comes up here, okay? So I know my shadow's in the way, trying not to be in the way. But you have different settings up here by just scrolling across, just like before, to see your different settings. And you have in here the sewing setting, where it will show you default settings are in white, temporary settings are in orange, okay? So if I wanted to, so by default, in temporary, my active stitch is going to be activated. My automatic pressure foot lift when my needle goes down is going to be activated. My thread cutter is activated. In my free motion mode, I can set up which way I want to free motion. I can set up if I want my stitch width to be, stitch width safety to be activated. So if I'm using my 1/4 inch foot without my single needle plate, that's a good thing to activate. So it will only give you needle center, and you can't do a zigzag and break your needle on your 1/4 inch. If you're doing twin needle work, that's found here too. So you would tell it what size twin needle you're putting on. And at that point, if I press OK, see this stitch came up kind of funky looking because it's now wanting to do it with a twin needle. So those twin needle things is a single shaft needle with 2 needles coming out, be able to do stuff like this. So I have this stitch here was a twin needle. This one's a triple needle. So the ones done in the white are twin needle, and the ones in color are triple needle, including the border is a triple needle. Okay, so whatever size needle that says, if I open up my settings again, I would tell it right here in my twin needle setting. And when I don't have a twin needle, I would turn it off. That is a setting, again, it would remember when you turn off the machine. Needle position, do I always want to stop up or down? You could change that. I'm going to scroll up here. My pressure on my pressure foot. I want my feed dogs to be auto. So these are just things you could turn on and off. So if I want my tie-offs at the beginning, at the end, and my thread cutter to always come on when I turn on the machine, I'm going to come in here and check mark all of these. okay? And now what will happen if I check mark all those and I say, okay, they're on. It's blue, okay? So my tie-off feature down here is actually on and activated. And when I turn on and off my machine, it will always remember that. Well, that is a feature I do like to use a lot, and I rather tell it by touching it and temporarily turning them off when I want them off versus always telling them to turn them on. I'm got more apt to use them than not use them. Let's go back into the settings again. And now in the embroidery settings, we have a lot of different things, which we'll get into when we get into the embroidery. The machine setting is where you can personalize this for you. So what language you want it in, or audio beeps and sounds and squawks and stuff that the machine makes when you're trying to tell it things that it may or may not want to do, or when it's telling you your bobbin is low, you can change the volume of that. Then we have our audio repeat. So let's say it's telling you the thread's broken, and it only told you once and you walked away and your machine stopped while embroidering. You can put this on so it repeatedly tells you, so when you come back you know what's going on. The nickname of the machine, ours is called PFAFF Creative Icon. Actually, we probably should go in and change it to Sound Sewing, because in our SewNet, we can see our Viking machines in the store and our PFAFF machines on our SewNet. And when we're working with one machine versus the other, by giving a nickname when I'm in the SewNet, if you own more than one machine, you'll know which machine you're working with. I have a lot of you that have the top-of-line Viking as well as the top-of-line PFAFF. So you could just simply nickname it PFAFF and the Viking, and that way you know which one you're sending to. Lock screen. This one is for when you're quilting, and if your quilt comes up and touches your screen, it can't select things for you on your screen if it hits it hard enough. So by doing a lock screen, it will lock your screen up so nothing can open it except for a little keypad that shows up in the corner that you have to hit precisely. Units, do I want my machine to show up in millimeters or inches? I'm going to tell you right now you want it in millimeters, because you know you sew at a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. I don't think you know what the equivalent is when it's in inches. Believe it or not, if you've been sewing on a machine in the last 15 years, you know more metric than you think. It is amazing. Your work light, our LED work light, I can make it brighter or duller, and so that has to do with the light inside the machine, this fabulous lighting that's in this area of the machine. That if I come here and I come and play with this, don't know if you can see on the screen, but it's getting dimmer. Yeah, you can see it. And now I can make it brighter. Okay, so the reason why you'd want to do that is if you're working with like on tone, black on black, and you're having a hard time seeing your thread on your fabric, bring down the lighting. By bringing down the lighting, the thread will pop out so you can see it better. And that's usually when I have to do it. It's when I'm working black on black or white on white that I can't see the thread on the fabric. The next thing is here, see my background image right now is white. So if I press OK real quick, that's my background image here, okay? If I go back into my settings here, let me go back into machine setting. Let's say I want to turn it purple. Now if I press OK, now it's purple. So what's nice about this is some of us do have trouble seeing the screen as seeing the stitches on the screen. That really made that stitch pop out. So you can go into your settings. So again, I'm going to open up my settings down here. I am going to then go into machine setting up here, and you can change your screen. If you like it at default, it is this one as default, but you could change it to any of these colors, which really personalizes for you. And you also have that flexibility in the embroidery as well. At the top here, if I want to see more, I would just scroll across, and in my Wi-Fi settings, this is another way you can go in and sign into your Wi-Fi. My SewNet settings, I'm signed in, so this is another place you can go and just sign in or sign out. Then machine information, so it's going to give you your serial number, it's going to give you the machine address, your software. I'm running the last software upgrade that I know of, which was at the time of making this video, October 2020. And then also you can clear all your files back to default. We do not recommend that you use that because it will clear, you'll clear things that you'll clear all your settings, everything that you have done. If you are interested in doing that, I would recommend you call and talk to the dealership first. So therefore, we can find out why you want to clear it, and maybe there's something else you need to do that won't cause you to clear all your settings. Because I did that once and I didn't realize how much stuff it was really going to clear that I had changed. And it was like unboxing the machine again and relearning it again. So I don't recommend doing it. I'm just going to press the OK key down here at the bottom. Now let's say if I wanted to go back to the welcome screen. The welcome screen, to get back to it's very simple. You have down here a house, okay? The welcome screen is also known as a home screen. So I would touch the house, and that's how we get back to our welcome screen that we were at before. And then if you want to know if you have multiple screens open, we could touch the multiple screen one, and I could see what I have open, and I could come back to any of them I have open. That's not one that many people use. Now, let's show you that you have the whole manual built into this machine. All right, so here up on my screen on the very top left, I have what looks like a notebook. I'm going to touch that, and it's going to open up, and now I can see I have my help center. To get out of your help center, let me show you that right now, you have this blue arrow up here. I can touch that and it will take you out, or I could touch the book and come back in. I can also see that I have my question mark, my Wi-Fi, my SONET. They're kind of grayed out here, but they're here. So here are the categories, and the very top one's user guide. And the user guide, give it a second to load up. It's coming. We'll give you the whole welcome. Now this one you can't slide or swipe. You come down, but nothing else is really going to happen. So it's more like your welcome screen. But if there's certain things I wanted to know, I could come into here, my menu, and this is the whole manual. The whole manual is in here. So if I wanted to know what came with my machine, I would go into introduction, I would go into accessories, and I'd say included accessories, and it'll just take it a moment to catch up with me. I'd close my menu so I could see, and I could see the included accessories here. So a real quick way to go in and see, and down here I could see my hoops. I could also come in here, and let's say I wanted to go into, I don't know what I want to go into. What could I want to go into? How about sewing? And let's say I want to get a introductory to the stitch edit, and I want to know stitch positioning. So I could touch all that, and it'll come up and tell me about my width, my length, my density, some things I haven't shown you, talked to you yet about, and I can go through and read it all and scroll it. So what's nice about it is, and now it's talking about my tensions, is you can go in and find things really quickly where you may not know where they are in the book. But let's say I wanted to know more about bobbins. So I can come back in here and maybe go A through Z. And I would touch B. And then in here, let's say I wanted to go about my bobbin winding. So I'm going to touch my bobbin winding, which was way, way, way down here, bobbin winding. And then I'll close my menu. And now it's going to talk about how to thread my bobbin and my bobbin winding. And it's all right there. Okay, and how you go through the needle, which I didn't show you that. It's not something I prefer, but you can. With the fact that we have this separate spool pin up here now, I always have multiple threads of the same color, so that's how I do it. The getting started. So that's the next menu. I'm going to touch that, and it's going to pop up. So the getting started is where you actually will have more things to go through quicker. So the bobbin winding is here as well, so I could touch that. But now it comes up as instructions. I can come through and read it. But when you see something like this, that means there's a video. And I could touch it, and now it's going to start showing me a video. And it's going to show me the first step. Okay. And then it stops, so I can do that part. Then what would happen is I would close it and come to the next step and read about it and continue the video. But let's say that you don't want to do it that way. And see, this is what I was trying to show you earlier. That was hard to see, so that's why I wanted to make sure to show you. And go underneath. But let's say I want to watch the whole video. So I would touch this here, which would turn off all the stops. and then just press go so I can just see the whole video with no interruptions. So I don't have to keep going back to the menu. Another nice thing I like. So again, I'm catering it to what I want to do right now. And then it's showing me how to wind the bobbin, and then they say to cut it versus break, which is actually better. Then you take it off, and they're going to show you to use the thread cutter. Okay, so then when that's done, I can then close the menu. I will close that menu here by hitting that, and then go on and I can say how to insert the bobbin, how to attach my dynamic foot, how do I use my automatic threader. That's all there. The next one is techniques and tutorials, and you get to learn about how to do garment techniques, sewing techniques, quilting techniques, embroidery techniques, and they're all built in here. So if I want to do like my quilting techniques and I want to go into my free motion quilting, and let's say I want to do with the floating foot, I would touch it and say that's what I want to do. It's going to come up, and it's going to come up to my straight stitch, and it's going to give me the instructions here of what I need to do, and again, more videos. So again, that's your whole manual built in here, which is really, really nice, and then some, okay? So now I collapse that window so I could get everything set up the way they wanted. If I wanted to reopen it again, I would touch it to reopen up the same menu part of the book I was in, okay? All right, you'll get to know that a little bit better when I show you the specialty stitches in the specialty video. Sewing instructions is the next one, where you can go in and they have some different projects in here already for you to do. And then the last one is the stabilizer guide. So you can go through and talk about all the Inspira different stabilizers that are available. And again, you can scroll through them, and I could touch it and it will tell me more about it and how to use it and all that. Again, that is all located. I'm trying to do things left-handed, and I'm obviously a right-handed person. Okay, so that's all located up here. I'm going to stop right there for now and let you guys play with your machine, but we do have several more videos that will be coming soon if they're not out there yet, so that you can see. They will be all listed on our website directly on the PFAFF page underneath the Creative PFAFF icon image. And again, our website is soundsewing.com. There's so much more you can do with this machine, but again, I just want to get you started. One last thing before I let you go though, if there's something you don't know that maybe I didn't go over but you want to know what it is, you have what's called a question mark up here, and you can ask it what it is. So if I touch the question mark here, see how it turned green and it pulsed? Let me come down here and maybe touch balance. And it'll come up and tell me about the balance and what it is. And right here, it'll say, read about how to balance stitches. And I could touch that, and it will take me to that part of the user manual. Okay, really cool. And then when you want out of here to go play, you just touch that blue arrow again. It'll take you right back to where you were. Really fun, really easy. Have fun with it. And, you know, write down all your questions and bring them into us. We will help you, and questions are good. Questions means you're learning. So we'll see you in the next video, or come on in.